Hello, my name is Pat Rooney. For 25 years, I was on Wall Street. Today, the subject is Alzheimer's. This is my first episode of what I call Catch the Golden Ring, because that's what it's all about. Now, people ask me, how did I get involved with Alzheimer's? Well, it actually started 37 years ago. I was living in New York. I had just sold the company to Pitney Bowes. I was looking for my next journey, and I was with a friend of mine, Tony Jessup, that I met on Wall Street. In fact, he worked for me. And a fellow Canadian. He's no longer with us. And Tony had a visitor by the name of Dr. Frank O'Donnell, a famous, at that point, young ophthalmologist, always on the leading edge of something in the eye business. And he said, "Hey guys, I'm really excited about something that's going through clinical trials right now and getting very good results by the name of photorefractive keratectomy, PRK." And he then explained how the ophthalmologist would take a scalpel effectively and scrape off the epithelium, which is the outside of the eye, and then etch a contact lens on the cornea and bandage the eye up, and in 2 weeks the eye would be okay again. The epithelium would grow back. You do the second eye, you throw away your glasses. I said, "Oh, Frank, that's very exciting." So but being a institutional securities analyst, I asked the obvious question: so when is it that the FDA will give us approval on this PRK, as you call it? He said, "No problem, Pat. 18 months we'll have approval." So again, as a securities analyst, I say, okay, let me do some research and see if we really want to get involved. In those days, before the internet, what you would do is you go to annual reports, you go to EGGER, which is a service offered by the SEC, you get the 10K, you find out everything about some company that is involved with PRK, at this point, laser vision correction. So my conclusion was, there's no way FDA approval is coming in 18 months. But I did find that the first laser, or one of the first lasers, was delivered to a doctor in Torino, in Italy. I had a friend in Italy. I called him up, Ignazio, and I said, "Iggy, I'd like to come over and visit, and I want to go to Turin and visit with Dr. Luca. He's doing something called PRK." So anyway, long story short, went to Milan. We visited with Dr. Luca through the glass window. We watched him do a procedure, send the patient home with a bandage on their eye, and a schedule to come back in 2 weeks to do the second eye after the epithelium had grown back. Well, okay, that's terrific. And so we go back to Milan, and I say, "Ignazio, you know I'm a -9. I hate wearing contact lenses. My eyes are always red. So let's create a business." So we formed a company by the name of VistaVision SPA like Inc. in the US and Canada. And basically there it is, we were in the business. We then and we didn't have the money to buy a $500,000 laser. However, we contacted the company that had shipped the laser to Torino, and basically Visex, they got excited about what we were doing, and they financed the laser for us. They then financed a second laser in Milan. Okay, well, what that does is, that's a golden ring. It's there, you grab hold of it and say, okay, I'm gonna run with it. However, there's a flaw. I mean, it's super painful if you've ever had a scratched cornea. So I then find out that a doctor in Bogota, Colombia, Dr. Ruiz, had invented something by the name of, well, he called it LASIK, laser assisted in situ keratectomy. I flew to Bogota, made a deal with Dr. Ruiz, and then also we were in Italy, but hey, I want to come to North America. So I'm a Canadian, I know the geography. We're still 5 or 6 years before FDA approval in the US, and we all know, and I knew, of course, about Windsor. So what I did is I called up the 2 doctors that had just started. They basically had ordered lasers, and Dr. Machat and Dr. Tafor. I went in and basically Dr. Tafor, and I ended up making a deal with Dr. Tafor that we would take his technology or his methodology, and we would open a clinic at the mouth of the tunnel coming from Detroit, and that's what we did. We then took, and he had an engineer assistant who was running his laser, Ghassan Barazi. I recruited him. We built a call center, built it. He already had a 3-person call center. It went to 100 people within 3 months, because our clinic that we opened at the mouth of the tunnel from Detroit was doing 1,000 procedures a month we reduced the price from $2,500 to $999 an eye, so we were doing $1 million a month. Okay, well, that's a great story, but we're talking about Alzheimer's. Fast forward June of 2024. I learned on Wall Street that if you want to find a golden ring, go to medical conferences if you are focused on medical at the time, which I was, and walk the floor, see what people are talking about. Well, I did that at the International Nuclear Medicine Society International Convention in June of 2024. And all kinds of stuff going on. However, I walk by a booth and they have this elegant chair that looked like it belonged in a beauty salon. It had a device that looked like a hair dryer. In fact, the company called it affectionately the hair dryer. It dropped over your head, and basically what it did is it was reading, it was using PET technology, positron emission tomography, and it was scanning the brain. And I happen also to know a lot about nuclear medicine and PET, and it gave very little radiation, so I got very excited about it. I had a drink with the founder and CEO, a young 30-year-old engineer from Switzerland, and we made a deal to pursue. What I saw when I saw it, it was my new excimer laser, the same as what was used for LASIK. However, this was a different technology, obviously, but there it was, because the name of the game is patient acquisition. We learned that in Italy, and we learned that in Windsor. Windsor happens to be 5 hours driving distance from 45 million people in the US, so it's a perfect place if you're starting something in the USA. So there it was, and now what we're doing is the company is now building what I did. I founded, I put up some money, etc., very little, as a matter of fact, because this is about how do you go from having the golden ring and not having to invest too much money and creating a success story. So that's my first episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll talk to you soon.